way I work is, and this is the way I think, this is the core of me. I feel like if I'm not doing my best to make someone else better, then I'm not doing my job. And I'm going to ask hard questions. I'm going to ask silly questions. I'm going to ask questions that you're not probably thinking of because I want you to think outside the box.
Welcome to the Meaningful Work Podcast, your source for ideas, inspiration, and tools for unleashing your best, most fulfilling work yet. Now, your host, Josh Schneider.
Yes! Welcome to the show today. With us is Kurtis Schneider. Now, he's not my brother. Well, maybe we're cousins, but a couple years ago, we met at a conference in Chicago and truly hit it off. I felt something from him from the moment that we met. And he has a tremendous amount of experience that has led him up to this point that we're going to unpack on this episode. But what I sensed and what I see in him as we have built relationship over the last couple of years is this resilience to accomplish and this resilience to see things beyond half full. You know, there's people that see things half full or the other people, but he sees beyond that. And so I'm excited to tap into that insight and to really learn how it is that he's structured his life, how he overcomes these obstacles and finds the meaning in his work. So without further ado, Kurtis Schneider, who's an account manager at Quicken Loans and an ambassador for the city of Detroit. Kurtis, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me. What is going on, my man?
Oh, the sun is breaking outside. I mean, we're both, we're about 40 miles away from each other. I can see you've got a little sunshine streaming in, so I'm excited. All right. Why don't you start us off a little bit of backstory, but I want you to lead that into how you truly find meaning and passion in what it is that you do today in your work.
Speaking to, my history, I actually was in the Army for about almost 8.5 years, going on 9. And, for me going to Quicken Loans or coming to Quicken Loans is a really great story. Actually, I was a client before I decided I wanted to come work with, Quicken Loans. And basically I got told, after a couple of deployments, a couple of vacations to Iraq and Afghanistan, that I couldn't do my job anymore. So, I'm like, hey, well, I get to spend some family time with my wife and 2 boys. So, all right, let's get into it. And basically, I was going through the mortgage process, and this lender, I'm not going to say their name, but basically denied me the week I was moving home with my family and household goods. So that left a pretty, we'll call it challenging. So, I'm starting to rack my head. I'm like thinking through the problem. Who do I need to contact? And my buddy's like, why don't you Quicken Loans? So I'm like, all right, cool. Gave them a ring and kind of told them what happened. So I still moved my family home that week, actually. So they're basically living with my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law in Sterling Heights. About 5 months later, we end up closing on our house, which Quicken Loans took care of us. So, you look at really great client experience. I mean, I was a platoon sergeant at the time, so I had about maybe 50 to 100 soldiers that I was taking care of, and I'm able to do everything on my phone. So I'm like, this is great, absolutely amazing. Fast forward a year later, when I actually came home, this is my first time seeing Detroit in 10 years. So I see Detroit, and I'm like, I remember it back in 2006, 2007 timeline, and then you see it in 2015, and you're like, what happened? So, I wanted to work for this great establishment that we call Quicken Loans. And, I've been there going on 4 years. I've started in operations, transferred over to business development, and where I was an account executive. I do the, Opportunity Detroit ambassadors, which means I tour, a lot of our business partners are people that want to learn about the city of Detroit, to live, play, and work in the city. And, looking now, I'm an account manager. I get to work with these amazing companies all throughout the United States, and I get to help be a resource for them for what can be, their dream, home ownership.
And so it's actually quite interesting what you had, your initial experience in this process of you securing a loan, realizing how it's a financial transaction, but when you're talking about your home and the safety of those that you love, it's really an emotional transaction.
Oh,
So how do you feel that that played into you wanting to continue to work, or even just those moments that stand out to you amongst the stress moments, the moments where you're not getting breakthrough?
so front of mind, just thinking back to that situation. I mean, do you remember the first time you purchased your home?
I hope to go my whole life without ever purchasing a home. We
Oh,
we rent.
re-rent. Okay.
We
So
rent.
for me, going through the mortgage process, especially while, I wasn't with my family. So you look at that 8.5 years, 9 years, I was, in the service. Maybe my wife and my kids were together maybe a year. So yes, completely. It was definitely an emotional transaction. Um, the thing that's front of mind for me is just the way I was treated. I mean, whenever I called, they picked up the phone, or if they didn't pick up the phone, they called me right back. The communication of what was going on, I fully understood what I was going through as far as the process was. Even though I had no idea what I was doing, I'm like, okay, they're explaining it where I can completely take care of what I need to take care of and provide what I need to provide to make sure my family gets into a house. So yeah, it was really emotional when you think about it. So yeah, I mean, the whole process was it was seamless. And, you know, I, that really kind of like just captured my attention, is like, hey, I could do all these other things, but why wouldn't you want to work with a top-notch company? So hope that answers your question.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of companies that do a lot of great, a lot of great things. Yeah, I'm interested in terms of for you, like, even though you work for a great company and they've got great processes, and it's we're still human beings that have to show up to go to work every day, which means
Right.
we deal with obviously our own lives, but the challenges of the role, the challenges of being in a highly competitive industry. So for you, what is it, or what is, and this is just getting right down into it. What are some of the, either the stories that you tell yourself, or the tricks or the tips that you use to kind of overcome some of the challenges of just the day to day?
So, I like to keep everything close to the chest as far as, for me, one of the main reasons why I joined the service is because of service of people. And I love my family. Want to make sure that they're taken care of, protected. It's the same thing with work every day. You know what I mean? Like there's a circumstance where I know what people are looking to do, whether you're a renter, whether it's people, that, looking to buy a house, refinance a house. You look at it from this standpoint, is that I know our program can help with financials for a lot of people. For me, it's I see how it helps people. So when you look at the struggles, especially with like when I was an account executive, I've been reaching out to a lot of companies all throughout the United States, and they don't see what I see as far as people who have used their services. So for me, the daily struggle is I see and I know what's going to help people down the road, whether it be helping them understand their finances, and that correlates specifically into buying a house or refinancing a house. On the other end of what I do, I also do tours around the city of Detroit. I get to kind of tell that story of where Detroit has been and where it's going. So that's something that really makes me just happy. You know what I mean? Because I get to be a part of showing and telling that story. Um, and on the military side, I served quite a bit of time, and I know service members, and I know a lot of them have a lot of questions about things that we work directly with. So I'm able to be a resource for them and, not just them, for my partners, people. So that's what makes me happy and love this career, because I get to help people.
So something you said was the word service, and helping people, I think, is in many ways it's an element of who we are as humans. I know for me, when I first went to school to be a nurse, I thought it was a good thing because the idea of helping people was not, it didn't scare me away, but that was the wrong application for helping people. When I switched into finance and thought I wanted to be a financial advisor, I liked the idea because it's the idea of helping people. It was the wrong application of helping people. And I never lost the thread of helping somebody, but it was finding the right and the best application. And so maybe in your journey, not it's uncommon to think of everything that you do as an act of service. It's a beautiful mindset because it allows you to posture yourself to do whatever it takes, or to operate with empathy in the midst of frustration, in the midst of challenges. So if you think back over your journey, over your process, where do you think this mindset of service and it takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of output to truly be the one that operates that way? Where do you think you developed this, or where did this start to, when did you start to really notice this?
Oh, wow. So as far as service goes, I mean, you look behind me, you can see my grandfather. He served, obviously. I know we're speaking respectfully towards what I do. I think it both kind of mills into, how I was brought up. So for me, my father was a little bit older than me, let's say 20 years older. So he also is a Korean War vet. So a lot of how I grew up and who basically my transactions with other human beings, I think that pretty much put me in a place where I am and I care about providing some type of service. Meaning, I don't know how to put it, but you think about when I was a kid, probably 10, 11 years old, me and my mother worked for Chrysler. She actually used to take me down to soup kitchens, and I'd be volunteering when I was 10, 11 years old. She used to also dress up as Santa Claus. I'd be a little elf, or there'd be times where I'd dress up as the Easter Bunny to go for my nieces and nephews. You know what I mean? So you see the smile in someone's eyes, and the ability to make someone smile and be happy, even if it's at the cost of me looking like a complete idiot. You know what I mean? Like that one, like right now you're smiling, that makes me happy. You know what I mean? Like you can make a positive impact on somebody just by making them laugh, or doing a little funky once in a while. So when you go back to how I was raised and just the things that I've done, to help people, it sticks with you. That's kind of where I started, I think, when I was 10, 11 years old, going to help people out and volunteering with my mother.
So you said something there, transactions with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down, transactions with human beings for you are anything but simply a transaction. And so I think that's something special that you, maybe you're like me. Every time I step into an elevator, I view it as a challenge. It is a challenge for a conversation.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You get to know that, and I think the best ones, Josh, are where the people that are just like sitting there, just like minding their own business, like, and you're like, what's going on with this guy? Like, depending on how they're looking, how they're scowling and stuff like that, you straight up a conversation. Like,
yeah.
I remember one time, speaking of which, going to work, and I'm going to hit the elevator. I put my arm in and I missed it, but the person, like, they pushed their arm in, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. And we strung up a conversation. It was only a couple minutes, but still, you know what I mean? I'm like, thank you so much. You made my day. I had a X meeting to be at. So the little things,
And that's interesting because what I'm hearing from you is, and what I'm almost feeling is that whatever role you are in, that mindset of how you view other human beings is coming with you. When you think about the possibilities for those that you work with, I know this is a bit of a leap, but obviously you have this mindset of how you've operated. But when you think about the possibilities of those that you work with, is it any different for you when you think about those that you're trying to serve versus those that you're trying to work with and lead? Or do you find that this mindset kind of overarches the whole thing?
That is a really good question. So my the way I work is, and this is the way I think, this is the core of me. I feel like if I'm not doing my best to make someone else better, then I'm not doing my job. And I'm going to ask hard questions. I'm going to ask silly questions. I'm going to ask questions that you're not probably thinking of, because I want you to think outside the box. Because I think at the end of the day, you look at where I came from as far as, being, in the Army. You look at what's the main goal, accomplish the mission. It's how my life's been. I feel like that's how I've been raised is, hey, you need to figure out how you're going to accomplish this task or this, whatever. So my thing is, and you learn this in leadership, and even though I'm a leader because I work at Quicken Loans, but even though I'm not in a leader's role, I still consider myself a leader. And what I mean by that is, if I'm not doing everything I can to make my teammates better, to accomplish our goal together, then what am I doing? So I'll ask questions. Sometimes I'll ask questions. People are like, what is he thinking? Like, is he paying attention to what's going on? And I'm like, no, I want to see a reaction or them to think in a different light. Because at the end of the day, everyone can stay in the same huddle, in the same herd going in one direction, right? But hey, maybe that one person, they have this idea and they go off on this side. They say, hey, this is a great idea. And like, okay, well, let's see that in action. So let's travel that way, see where we go. What's really cool about working where I work, we have this great culture. We have these things called isms. So, we live these isms every single day, and it kind of goes hand in hand with when you're in the service. We call them Army values, but it's basically the same concept. You know what I mean? We're all one team trying to accomplish a goal, trying to accomplish our task. So, yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
So I keep taking notes on what you're saying, because I think you're saying things that are so natural to you. But they're not the most natural way of operating. And you said, if I'm not doing my best to make myself better, I'm not doing my job.
Right.
Kurtis, I think that right there is in many ways sums you up. It sums up the mindset. And I truly believe whatever role you're in, you're bringing this valuable asset with you to the company and to those that you serve. I appreciate you taking the time to step aside to try and break down a little bit of how you operate and give it to us in a way that we can think about how it is that we operate, how it is that we think, the mindset that we utilize to overcome the challenges, the obstacles in our work, to unlock our best, most meaningful work yet. So, Kurtis, thank you again so much for your time, your attention, and for being here with us today.
Thanks, Josh.